we thought it'd be great to get somebody who's on the ground, who's got his ear very close to what's going on with San Diego State. That's Mark Zeigler. We've had him here on the program before. He writes and follows the Aztecs, the San Diego Union-Tribune. He joins us now here in the Full Court Press. Mark, thanks for your time today.
Oh, my pleasure. How you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing well. Just run out of the gates. Dennis Dodd writes this story for CBS yesterday saying that the AAC is targeting 4 Mountain West Conference schools to create some kind of a Western front, and San Diego State is included in that. Is that just AAC just people in their camp trying to say, hey, look, this is the place to be and this is what we want to do? Or is there legitimate interest from San Diego State saying, hey, we want to be involved in this?
Well, I don't want to speak for San Diego State, but I think I know enough to say that, look, they always have their ear to the ground. They haven't hid their desire to move on to bigger and better things and be in a conference that has a better TV package that helps balance budgets, because that's what college athletics have become about. They're not about wins and losses. They're not about let's get a great tennis coach, let's get student athlete experience. I mean, it's all about all those things, but at the end of the day, it's about balancing your budget, and the best way to do that is to have a great TV contract, and that's why everyone wants to be in power conferences. They're making $40 and $50 million per year per school, and the Mountain West just tripled its TV contract from basically $1 to $3 million, and still are that far behind everybody else. And so they always have their ear to the ground. But when it comes to the American Athletic Conference, the AAC, I think J.D. Wicker, their athletic director, back when these rumors started back in January, told me actually at Utah State when we were there for the basketball game, or basketball games as it was last year, said it's a non-starter for us. It's just not going to work. We have nowhere to, we're not sending all of our other teams to that league, and even if it went football only in that league, we have nowhere else for our teams to go that we think is really a good fit. And so I don't think they're really that interested in it. I think they look at the landscape and they think that best conference, it's not a power conference right now if everybody stays in it. And so I think they're spending more of their time convincing the other members of that than they are of trying to jump to the AAC.
For you, do you think, because there's reports as well that this is just the beginning of another wave of expansion, so if the AAC is not the fit, would San Diego State be interested in maybe this next round of potential Big 12 expansion?
Well, of course. I mean, that's where they want to get. But, there's so many variables in that. I think some people are taking this notion that Big 12 is going to expand again out of context. All they're saying is they're not going to preclude another round of expansion. And the reason they're saying that, what I've been told, is that TCU in Houston, it's been reported that they were close to considering going to the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 looking to grab some teams in Texas and get a foothold in the Texas market. So if Houston and TCU go to the Pac-12, they'd have to maybe replace those. I don't think they're actively looking out to try to get more mouths to feed, because at the end of the day, every team you add is another piece of the pie when it comes to TV rights. And what remains to be seen is what does the Big 12 command in TV rights? I think anyone who's out there thinking without Texas and Oklahoma they're going to get $40 million a year per school is delusional. I don't think they'll get $3 million per school like the Mountain West, but I think it's going to be a lot closer to $3 million than it is going to be to $40 million. I think they're going to be shocked by the drop in value without Texas and Oklahoma in that league, even adding Cincinnati, Houston, Central Florida, and BYU. I mean, maybe it's $10 million, maybe it's even $20 million, but at that point, they're going to be scraping together every dollar they can, and adding more mouths to feed is not going to be high on their agenda, I think. So I think we're maybe a ways away from more expansion in the Big 12.
So this San Diego State has been involved with these kind of discussions in the past with the Big East, and while it didn't seem logical to join because of geography, but certainly it did for opportunity, but then the Big East fell apart. I guess maybe that's why some people are bringing this up again, is San Diego State could potentially be a target again, that they may be open to that idea, to going to the remnants of the Big East?
Well, I think so. I mean, they're an obvious team. I mean, they're very good in football. They're building a new stadium. It'll be done next August. Obviously, their basketball record speaks for itself over the last decade. They're really one of the, they're pretty much the best over the last decade, probably the most consistently good or best program on the West Coast, not named Gonzaga. Now, other schools have had better years here and there, but over the whole decade, they've been very consistently good. They've gone to the NCAA tournament consistently. And so that's a big plus. And I think that's why people keep bringing up their name. The Big East, they were going to go football only in Big East. They were going to get $7 million a year, I believe, in TV money, and they were going to put all their other sports in the Big West. At the time, that seemed like a logical thing to do. As they look at it now with the basketball program, I don't think they do that to their basketball program. The Big West has really cratered as a basketball league. It's not a very good basketball league. It's a one big league. Those schools are not putting money into their programs. They're playing in gyms with laminated wooden seats. It's a bus league. And I think that the basketball program has completely outgrown that. I mean, I think they had outgrown it when they looked at the Big East, almost a decade ago, but they definitely have now. And so there really aren't as many options when you look at the basketball program. And at the end of the day, when you look at San Diego State, yes, football is the driving force in conference realignment and in TV money. But at a school like San Diego State, it's at its heart, I believe, it's a basketball school. And you look at the success they've had, that's what its national reputation is. People don't know it for football. As successful as they've been in football, they know it for basketball. And I think they're kind of got to stay true to that identity.
Mark, you brought up Gonzaga. There were some pretty hot rumors that Gonzaga was flirting with the Mountain West to join them, and then we thought maybe announcement would happen during the Mountain West Conference basketball tournament a year ago. It didn't happen. It didn't materialize. They backed out for various whatever reasons. But now with this conference expansion, there's uncertainty. There's opportunity here for conferences to make some moves. Would you think that just from what you're hearing, or if you heard anything, would that be something that may be part of the discussion again? And if so, would that really help the Mountain West?
Well, certainly would in basketball. I think, the other school that's kind of hanging out there is Wichita State, which joined the AAC in basketball. For basketball, they don't play football. And so you could see bringing together Wichita State and Gonzaga into another conference to really bolster the basketball. At the same time, I mean, yes, the WCC is not a great conference. It's better than the Big West. Some years it's as good or better than the Mountain West. It has its up and down years. St. Mary's is a very good program, and having BYU it was very good. And look, Gonzaga made the national championship game coming out of that conference, so it doesn't scare them to be in that conference. But the two factors that are out there that could make Gonzaga reconsider would be, one, with this alignment or this alliance of the Pac-12, Big Ten, and ACC, is that going to include non-conference games in football and basketball? And is that going to sort of soak up all the non-conference opportunities that a school like Gonzaga, relies on to build a resume and just keep sharp for the NCAA tournament? That may drive them into a better basketball conference now that BYU is not going to be in the WCC anymore. So I think it's a possibility, but I think right now, if you're Gonzaga, you're sitting there going, look, we cut this sweetheart deal. We keep most of our NCAA tournament shares for ourselves. The TV deal is basically built around us. The schedule is built around us. We only play a 16-game schedule. Most leagues are going to 20. We play a 16-game schedule, which allows us 15 non-conference games to go get all these good games. As long as we can still schedule good non-conference games, it doesn't matter what league we're in. So I think on the balance right now, they're probably pretty content where they're at. But, maybe if a couple more dominoes fall, you could see them coming and entertaining something with the Mountain West. But I don't think it's on the front burner.
Along those lines, do you see the Mountain West then being more proactive or reactive to expansion?
Right now, I don't think they're aggressively looking at teams, and it's not to say they're not. I spoke with Craig Thompson today, and he said we're talking and strategizing. He didn't use the word aggressively approaching teams. And I think, as we're speaking with some ADs and other people around the conference, the way they kind of put it is, look, if we find some teams that we think add value to our league, absolutely, we'd go after them. But, teams are in the group of five for a reason. You're there for a reason. And when the power conferences feel like they need to expand, okay, maybe they'll pluck one or two out of there. But you're either in like a Boise State. I mean, very good football program, but they're in the 104th media market in the country. That doesn't bring value to a TV deal. And San Diego State's in the 27th to 29th market in the country, but they don't really own the market. I mean, USC and UCLA and the Pac-12 have a big presence here, and it's a transient community of people who bring their allegiances from elsewhere. And you can go to a sports bar, and there's a Nebraska sports bar and an Oklahoma sports bar, and all these LSU sports bars. They all, there's little pockets all around. They're not all pulling in one direction for the Aztecs as big as this market is, and so you're kind of where you are because of who you are, and you're there for a reason. So. I don't know that there's any schools that really add value to the Mountain West. And again, it's more mouths to feed. And so if you go to the TV execs and say, well, if we add this, say we add SMU and Tulsa or SMU and Memphis, we poach them from the AAC, how much value is going to add to our TV contract? And they come back and say none. Well, then why would you do it? You're just adding schools. And I don't think, I think the Mountain West probably made a little bit of an error when it expanded with a couple of the schools it got previously. Maybe the smart play is to eliminate a few of those schools. I don't think the presidents have the gumption to do that. And Craig told me flat out today that's off the table. So if you're not going to eliminate anybody, I'm just not sure it makes sense to add mouths to feed, if that makes any sense. They're kind of stuck with what they are. I think their best play right now is to stick together and remain as 12 and remain solid and become that next best conference and watch the AAC flail away.
You talked about how Gonzaga has that sweetheart deal out in the WCC, and as being in Utah State country, pretty easy to figure out most people's feelings towards Boise State. But with the market that San Diego State's in, and the fact, as you highlighted, the football team solid, the basketball team is very good. Do you see these rumors benefiting San Diego State as a way to maybe negotiate more favorable treatment in the Mountain West, and if so, how?
I don't think so. I think, it'd be a little hypocritical for them to be, behind the scenes upset about the carve-out that Boise State has and then ask for one themselves. I think, they're just hoping that will go away one day, and they're just kind of living with it. I mean, that deal was approved by a group of presidents, many of whom are no longer in the Mountain West. And so when Mountain West presidents complain about it, they can say, well, you can try to attack it legally, but this is what your predecessors agreed to. And at the end of the day, it's not a ton of money. It's $1.8 million, and every year that the TV pool grows and budgets grow, that becomes a smaller and smaller percentage of the overall budget. I mean, in Mountain West, it's still a considerable amount of money. To a power conference school, that's a drop in the bucket. I think the bigger problem is the perception of that carve out. I mean, people have this perception that they have this special treatment, and it probably was a mistake, and I think most people agree with it, but I think it's just one of those things they have to live with. And I think San Diego State at this point, is just trying to keep the league together and convince everybody that it isn't in their best interest to send softball teams to East Carolina, just so you can say you move leagues. I don't know how that league, AAC, in its current state or in its future state without Cincy, Houston, and Central Florida really brings any more value to you as a program than the Mountain West does.
Yeah, we're talking to Mark Zeigler. He is a beat writer and columnist for the San Diego Union-Tribune, covering the Aztecs. Utah State doesn't have San Diego State on the schedule this year, which is probably a good thing because San Diego State looks really good early in the season. Big showdown with another Utah team this weekend. I want to get to that in just 1 second. But first, as you had mentioned early in the very beginning of our discussion, there's a really big new stadium project going on in San Diego. How is that progressing so far?
Well, the amazing thing is in San Diego, we never get anything built on time. There are just so many commissions and environmental impact reports and lawsuits that just slow everything down. I mean, Petco Park was open for the Padres years and years behind schedule. They never were able to build a new Chargers stadium, and the Chargers ended up eventually leaving. But what's amazing about this is they build it. I drive by it every few days. It's just growing out of the ground like a flower. I mean, it's just every time you go by, there's something else they've added. They've got the whole superstructure up, starting to lay in where the seats are going to be. I think they're on schedule to open for the next season, and it's going to be kind of a game changer for the program since it's going to be a really nice stadium. It's going to be their own stadium. It's a good size, 35,000. All that is really, really positive. It's going to be kind of a 20 years down the road, it'll be annexed to the current campus. Their plans to expand the university from 35,000 to 50,000, kind of make it the flagship of the Cal State University system. You have the Cal State and the UC system in California, but of the Cal State system, I think it'll be sort of the flagship campus and 50,000 kids, and it's 3 trolley stops between the existing campus and the new campus. So I think it's going to be real cool synergy, and the football stadium is kind of the anchor of that whole project. The downside is you got to pay for it, and it's a $310 million stadium. At least that was the last we heard last year. Sure, it costs more now. I'm thinking it's going to be $15+ million a year in debt by an athletic department that has a $54 million a year budget, and probably close to half of that is subsidized by student fees or state tax dollars. And now you're adding $15 million or $10 million, whatever it's going to be, of debt. That's going to be the big question: is how do they pay for it? I don't think season tickets and seat licenses and suites are going to pay it all. So that will be the big nut that they got to kind of solve.
And I'm just going to ask you about the game this weekend. San Diego State is off to a great start, but starting quarterback doesn't look like he's going to play this weekend against the Utes.
No, they've got a backup, Lucas Johnson. They had a really good freshman out of Arizona who's a big guy. He's a dual threat quarterback, highly rated, and he played in the scrimmage and looked the best of all the quarterbacks. He's listed down number 2 in the depth chart. He moved up a spot, or actually 2 spots. He was 4, I think, at one point. And he may get some snaps, and that'd be the interesting thing to see. But it'll be an interesting game. I mean, they struggled for a half against an awful New Mexico State team, and then played better in the second half. They completely blew out Arizona in the first half and looked so in the second half. But Arizona's lost a zillion straight games and is really an awful program right now. But it was on the road and with the Pac-12 opponent. And I don't think Utah looked very good last week at BYU. And so the one thing I think that will not be in their favor is Utah is not going to take them lightly. I think one of the things that happens with San Diego State is they can sneak up on some people because, when you're in the Pac-12 and you're playing Pac-12 games against natural rivals and tough teams, you go, oh, well, this is just San Diego State. This is our breather. And then you get down there and realize they got a really big line. They like to run and pound the ball and punish you, and it's a tough team to play against. So but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Utah is fighting for its life. They lose this game, I think the season's pretty much over for them, and it's a must-win on the road. I also think it's going to be interesting. They're playing this game in Carson, in the where the Chargers played and where the LA Galaxy plays, and there's not a lot of San Diego State fans going up. The first game had like 3,000 people in the stands, and I've been hearing Utah is going to have 7,000 people. They might outnumber San Diego State fans, so it might actually be a home game for Utah.
Ooh. Just expanding on the quarterback issue, obviously with the backup playing, that poses a challenge maybe for the passing game. But are you confident after what BYU was able to do to Utah on the ground and how successful the Aztecs have been at rushing the ball to begin with, that the Aztecs may be able to push the Utes around and kind of negate that backup quarterback downgrade maybe? Yeah,
and Lucas Johnson's a running quarterback too. He just hasn't had injury problems, so I think they're going to be. He is not a passing quarterback. Trust me. I think he might even come out in the wishbone for all we know. It's going to be. That's where the game's going to be decided. San Diego State's rushing attack. The two Bells, very very good running backs, quick, shifty, and a big offensive line, a veteran, experienced offensive line, and Utah teams can stack the box and put 8, even 9 in the box against San Diego State and take their chances in the passing game. And that's what we're going to see. It's going to kind of be an old school, they probably should play this game in a snowstorm to scrape off the goal line to see if the guy got across, because it's going to be a lot of running. Probably be a pretty quick game.
And last quick question for me. The West Division in the Mountain West just looks solid, maybe the UNLV notwithstanding. But there are no off games in that division. I mean, that's tough this year. And that's San Diego State's right in the mix with all that. They could win that division as easy as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it's completely flipped from a couple years ago, because a couple years ago it was San Diego State and nobody. I mean, Fresno State was down, Nevada was struggling, San Jose State was historically awful, and all of a sudden those 3 programs have turned it around, and obviously San Jose State won it. Nevada might be the best team. They won at Cal already. Fresno State's playing UCLA this week. They've already had a couple good games. Looked good at Oregon. and so San Diego State could finish fourth in that division as good as they are. That's how good the other teams are, and it's crazy to see how the two sides of the Mountain West have flipped. I mean, you have Boise State and maybe Utah State on the other side, and that's it. Everyone else is struggling. I'd hate to be UNLV right now and looking down that schedule, just going, "Oh my gosh, when are we ever going to win a game?" They might never win a game. I mean, this might be, this poor coach might get fired before he wins one.
It's true. Good point. Hey, great stuff, Mark. We appreciate your insights. I mean, this is really interesting to see how this continues to unfold, and if these Mountain West Conference schools take the bait or not, or if they just stay firm with where they're at and let logic decide, which sometimes that doesn't always work. But we appreciate your insights and what's going on with the San Diego State perspective.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to my annual trip to Logan. It's one of my favorite stops on the Mountain West Tour. I love it up there. I'd love to be up there when it's not snowing too, but I'll take it when it's snowing too. It's beautiful.
Yeah. This year you'll have to wait till winter time before that trip happens. But anyway, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Talk to you guys soon. Have a good weekend.